All right, well, tonight's program is including the land ethic in your units program. Welcome to the Outdoor Ethics and Conservation Roundtable. It is January of 2026, so Happy New Year, everyone. Paul is our presenter tonight, so Paul and I have sort of switched roles. I'm going to lead us through and let Paul save his voice for what will become a wonderful presentation, I'm sure, about all of it. Tonight's agenda, welcome and opening, the safety moment. I still get to do that. We're going to talk about keeping our campsites healthy since we're talking about the land ethic. We can take care of the land in many ways. Paul's going to give us including the land ethic in our programming. Then we'll have some announcements and closing, and then we'll open it up for discussion. So again, so glad to see everybody here tonight. If I can have everybody hit the mute button so that we don't get a lot of feedback. We'll go ahead and start with our Pledge of Allegiance. If you're in uniform, great. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. Our Scout Oath. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country and to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. The Scout law. A Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. And the Outdoor Code. As an American, I will do my best to be clean in my outdoor manners, to be careful with fire, to be considerate of others, and to be conservation-minded. Thanks, everyone. Our safety moment for tonight is keeping campsites healthy. When nature calls, properly disposing of human waste is important to avoid polluting water sources, minimizing the chances of spreading disease, and maximizing the rate of decomposition. The BLM has this wonderful little series called the IDKT. I didn't know that. With Leave No Trace, they have a partnership as well. And so you can check out these tips from the BLM before heading out. When nature's calling, now what? Going to the bathroom outdoors doesn't have to be scary when you're prepared with these tips. Know before you go. Do your research. What facilities are available? What's the preferred method of disposing of waste? In some areas, you can dig a cat hole. In other areas, not so much. So make sure you know what's gonna do happen when you're out there. Build a poop kit, hand sanitizer, toilet paper, a bag for packing toilet paper and hygiene products out, and a trowel or a wag bag, depending on what you need. The wag bag method, use a wag bag and pack it out, or the cat hole method. Dig a 6 to 8 inch deep cat hole 200 feet from water, campsites, or trails. Pack out toilet paper and other hygiene products. So from NPS and BLM, appreciate the IDKT little format here. What about when it's time to eat? Prepare safe food and water. The CDC helps us with this one. Bring safe and healthy foods along on your camping trip. Eating contaminated food or drinking contaminated water can increase the risk of developing certain infectious diseases caused by germs. Follow these steps to keep your food and water safe. Pack in tight, waterproof containers or bags. Keep them in an insulated cooler. Wash your hands and surfaces often. Use hand sanitizer if water is not available, but remember, soap and water is still the best. Separate raw foods from cooked foods and make sure to cook your foods to proper temperatures. Chill any foods promptly after it, and never drink water from a natural source that you haven't purified, even if it looks clean. Water in streams, rivers, or lakes may look clean, but can still be filled with bacteria, viruses, and parasites that can result in waterborne diseases. And any of us that have been on a long hike, Cryptosporidium and Giardia is not what you want when you're 20 miles out on the trail. And be sure to pack out that food waste. So our top reasons to pack out waste in the backcountry: protect fragile ecosystems, prevent contamination of the waterways, ease burden on land managers. We all know our land managers are overstretched these days, so let's make sure that we're doing our part. And let's keep those public lands open for everyone. Litter in the outdoors poses a threat to wildlife who may ingest that trash we leave behind. When litter breaks down, it leaches chemicals into the surrounding environment, which negatively impact nearby vegetation and could contaminate those water sources. Even things that we consider natural or biodegradable, like banana peels, orange peels, and apple cores, can be harmful to wildlife. It also creates a negative visitor experience for many of us. We've all seen it. Let's not be part of the problem, but rather be part of the solution. With that, that's your safety moment for tonight. I'm going to turn it over to Paul. He's going to give us this wonderful presentation, and see you on the other side. Paul.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much. I don't know. The idea for this came from the level 1 classes I teach, and we talk about the land ethic, and at the end of it, people seem to be confused about, okay, we talked about all this stuff and what the land ethic is, but now what do I do with it? And so that's really what this is. I'm not going to take time to go through and talk to you about what the land ethic is. That's what you learn in your level 1 course and other places. This is more practical. How do you now take that and make that part of your unit's program, or your training program, or your whatever it is that you're working with? How do you build the land ethic into that? So I'm going to talk about where the land ethic fits in scouting. And then last month, Derek Taft talked about something called the Knowledge, Attitude, Behavior Framework. And that was brand new to me. I don't know if it was new to everybody else as well, but that was new to me. And all of a sudden, that really fit in with what I was talking about, because at that point I was kind of starting to work on this talk. And I want to go through that, and I want to get your reaction and think if you agree with me that this is something that makes a lot of sense here. And then I'm going to get into, okay, how do we teach it in the land ethic in our units? And then I'm going to go through some real examples and give you some examples of things that we do, and of course point you to some resources. So that's the agenda for this evening. So starting with everything, I mean, the land ethic wouldn't be part of scouting if it didn't advance scouting's mission. And scouting's mission says we're going to teach our youth to make ethical and moral choices using the values of the Scout Oath and the law. So I think, you can probably see right away where that fits. I mean, look at Leopold and his quote on the land ethic. All ethics so far is evolved to rest upon a single premise, that the individual is a member of a community of interdependent parts. So if you think about it, ethics is always part of a community. You can't have ethics outside of a community. One person not associating with anybody else can't demonstrate any ethics, because there's no ethics, nobody to demonstrate them to. So we look at the Scout Oath and law, and the Scout Oath just kind of then bounces right in one of the things it says is it points to the Scout law. So then there's trustworthy, loyal, helpful, all those things we just recited. And if you think about it, I was a Scoutmaster for years, and never once did we do something where we taught trustworthy, explicitly, or clean, or cheerful. But we certainly had a lot of talks about a lot of those things. We had discussions with those. Yeah, when the opportunities came up and as events occurred, let's just put it that way, there were certainly discussions about those kinds of things. And so those are all ethical kind of qualities, just like the land ethic. As a matter of fact, the land ethic fits into a lot of these. I mean, I don't know how you can be reverent without the land ethic. I mean, your awe for what God has created. I mean, that is reverent, and that is the land ethic. So they all just tie together if you look at it that way. And that's what Leopold said. The land ethic simply enlarges the boundaries of the community. So we're doing trustworthy, loyal, helpful, all that in the community. And we expand that to include the soils, the waters, the plants, the animals, or collectively, the land. So that's how that all fits together. So and we kind of tie that with the outdoor code. And in the outdoor code, of course, we close with be conservation minded. And I have to say, I've heard that explained by a lot of scouters, and boy, I don't know if it gets interesting sometimes how people view that, So, but to me, being conservation minded means we're treating God's world around us like we treat, as part of our community. So, it really just all ties together. So I guess the point of all this is that the land ethic isn't something that's separate. It's something that just expands what we've already been talking about as scouts. And it's not something new we do. It's something we just do as part of what we already do as scouters and the youth as scouts. So here's a quote, and this really comes back to be the core of what I'll be talking about for the rest of the talk here. It is inconceivable to me that an ethical relation to land can exist without love, respect, and admiration for the land, and a high regard for its value. So really, when it comes down to what I'll be talking about from here, just keep this quote in mind here. So here's that knowledge, attitude, behavior framework. So after December's presentation, I got on, I says, Derek, you got to talk to me about this KAB framework. I need to know more about it. And it being December and finals, and he's a professor and quite busy, I'm just honored. He got back to me with an email and some pointers, and I got some things out of this. And one of it was this pyramid view of things. So here, if I think about this in our outdoor ethics and our conservation work in scouting, education and information is the base of all we do. We do everything we teach is based on facts. It's based on the science. It's based on what's right for the land, scientifically, and what's proven and all that. That's where we spend so much time of our teaching. And I can tell you, having taught dozens of level 1 courses, that every course I've taught, I felt like there are so many facts and things I needed to tell these students, and I never got a chance to do it. I just ran out of time. There's just not enough hours in the clock I've got. So this is where we spend a lot of time. But the thing is, what we're really trying to do here is not pump facts into people. We're really trying to change their behavior. And in a level 1 course, we're trying to teach them how to get others to change their behavior. And really, the difference that makes that happen is attitude. I think about a friend who's come back and talked to me, TMI on their last vacation and everything that they did and all this. They've given me all kinds of facts and that stuff, but I care, but not that much, is kind of the way I would put it. And so it's not changing me. I mean, he's saying all this stuff, but it's not making me want to go there or do anything. I'm just getting all this stuff dumped on. And are we doing that when we have our scouts and we're telling them, no, you got to do this because this? What we're leaving out is the why. Why do you care? Why do you want to make, why do you want to make a difference in your behavior? Why do you want to change the way you act, the things you do based on this information? So that's the attitude piece of this. So just to summarize here is, we spend much of our time, at least I'll tell you I do, okay, with the education, the information, the facts. It just seems obvious to me. I care a lot. I'm passionate about this stuff. I don't, sometimes it's hard to think other people aren't necessarily as passionate as I on some of this stuff. But really, the land ethic starts to fit in here on the attitude. How do you change that attitude so that people want to take that information you've given them and use that information to change their behavior and to go out in the world and hopefully get other people to change their behavior as well. How do you do that? So come back in the why. In the classes, every time we teach a class, we talk about why is so important. You got to tell why. And a lot of times I find the why gets bogged down in the science, but it doesn't get into the emotions. It doesn't get into the things like beauty or whatever. We might mention that, but that's kind of an aside a lot of times from some of this. Why do you care, and what does that beauty mean? What does it mean for me? What does it mean for other people? What's it mean for the larger community, as it were? So that's pretty much how I saw this. And now just, if you're able to, if you see there's a hands button on the bottom of there, raise your hand button. I'm just curious, did that make sense to people when I presented it that way? If so, raise your hand. And if not, you don't need to raise your hand. But, okay, that works too, just if you're on the camera. That's super. Well, thanks. So I think it resonated with some people. But anyway, that was good. Now, enough of the theory. Let's get practical here. So how do we teach the land ethic? Rule number 1, get outside. And I want to read a passage here. So this is a book. I think that shows up there. There we go. Now, anyway, the camera's going to get weird about it here. It's How to Read Nature by Tristan Gooley. I'll give you the information on this later. I just want to read a passage from it. Tristan Gooley is basically, he is an outdoorsman. He's written a whole bunch of books here. One that I enjoy as well is The Lost Art of Reading Nature Signs. And that's really cool. If you want to get on the bottom of that pyramid and get in there and find out what's it mean when the sky looks this way, or what's it mean, all that kind of stuff. It's really cool. He writes from the UK, but still the same principles work, although the plants and animals are a bit different. Anyway, here's what he wrote. As we set out to closely read nature, we need to be beware of an early trap. It is very hard to find nature interesting if you are bundling all of it into one lot. This is the biggest risk early on. Nature is not one big pile. Plants set some people on fire and douse the enthusiasms of others. Some dedicate much of their life to the study of an individual insect species, while others recoil at any creepy crawly they see. The pioneering American planter of apple trees, John Chapman, felt it wrong to ride a horse or chop down a tree. He was so cross when he accidentally stepped on a worm that he punished his own foot by throwing away its shoe. Nature is diverse. People are diverse, each to their own, and footwear is optional. So if you think about that, that's one thing to think about. Get outside, but when you do get outside, are we doing the same thing over and over again? Are we getting outside? Are we getting to see different things? Are we reaching different youth who are turned on by some things? I might not like the creepy crawlies, but I might have some youth who are just really enthralled with something like that. So think about some of those kinds of things. When we want to get out there, we want to reach all the youth, get them all enthralled with the outdoors. So, and the reason is this. As Leopold said, we can be ethical only in relation to something we can see, feel, understand, love, or otherwise have faith in. So something we learned about from a book, from a teacher talking to us, from a scouter talking to us, from our patrol leader talking to us, whomever, is not going to have the same impact as something that we actually have seen ourselves and we've grown to know and appreciate. So that leads to the second piece. Share our feelings and values about nature. So a lot of times we'll talk about don't do that because it does this bad thing. But, just as we learned in Authority of the Resource training, say why? What's the beauty? What's this mean to you? What's this mean to this other person? Why is this important? What is value about this from a feeling, from an emotional point of view? So talk some of this, and I will give examples on this down the line here. So an Edward Abbey quote: "Man on foot, on horseback, or on a bicycle will see more, feel more, enjoy more in 1 mile than motorized tourists can in 100 miles. So let's get out there and let's enjoy that. Next thing is, Leopold had a teaching method, and this is not a cookbook. This is not you observe, then you participate, then you reflect. There's just 3 things, and you do these 3 things as part of your activity. So observation is important. Take time, slow down, look, see, use your senses, not just, not necessarily your vision. Use your scent, use your touch, as appropriate. Use all your senses and observe the environment, and you'll find things that you would otherwise have just passed by. You're walking down the woods, in this part of the country where I live in Virginia. You're up in the walking in the Shenandoahs, and you're going down, and just things are great, and you're just trucking along, and you blow right past that chestnut tree. There was a chestnut tree there. Did you see that? No, you blew past it. So stop and observe. Take the time to observe. The second thing is participation. Don't just observe, we're not watching on TV observing. We're hands-on participating, observing. And maybe we don't get things right the first time, but that's what scouting does. We give kids chances to learn by participating, and we need to do it with the outdoors as well. And just like everything else in scouting, reflection is so important. Let's stop and think about what we saw. Let's talk about it in, of course, the scientific and the factual side, but let's talk about it in the emotional side too. So, kids, what did you think was the prettiest part of the thing we saw on this walk? I never asked that as a scoutmaster. I'd say, what was the coolest thing? But I never said, what was the prettiest thing? I never used a value like that. So that's something that I think we all ought to do. And by the way, here's something I wrote in my note, and I almost forgot to say it, but thank goodness for notes. About 15 years ago, this is about the observation piece. Do you remember there was this video that really went around, and social media was all over the place? The invisible gorilla. There are these 2 teams here, the black team and the white team, and they were passing basketballs back and forth. And you were supposed to count how many times the white team passed the basketball. And in the middle of that, a guy in a gorilla suit walked right through the middle. And at the end, 40% of the people could tell you how many times the basketball was passed, but they had no idea that a gorilla had just walked through through the frame. So that's the way we are. And by the way, that's another reason for a safety moment on don't mess with your phone while you're driving. If 40% of the people can't keep their eye, can't see things, okay, don't mess with your phone while you're driving. So anyway, that invisible gorilla, I hadn't thought about that in years, but that's like right on spot here. So another thing to do is don't be afraid to, when you are talking about the scout law with youth, don't be afraid to associate nature with it. Bring nature in, just like you'd bring, the town government or whatever it is that you're talking about. But be sure and bring nature in as you talk about the points of the scout law. Next thing is have conservation projects for sure, but try and pick ones that address issues that the youth care about. And generally what the youth are going to care about are things that are future oriented. This brings benefit down the future. Things that are cleaning up the grown-ups' mess are not going to be as rewarding and valuable to them as things that are, I'm making the world better going forward. So, that, to a youth, that's going to be a lot more powerful way to think about it. So try and think about conservation projects that do that. So here's some ideas on conservation projects. Okay, conservation projects might focus on human health and well-being. Cleaning up this trash might be actually making the stream more healthy, and getting rid of the smell that's blocking, whatever. You could have something along those lines. A project could be, the kids might be worried about, hey, there's this salamander that's, in trouble here, but we have a project here and we're restoring some habitat for it. That's a future thing, and you're doing something for a species. So like that. Phenology, keeping records of stuff. Think of a way to do that, and to look at, okay, outside where we meet, we'll take some time every night and we'll just figure out what birds do we hear, or what's just general things, and keep records over time and say what changed and why did you, and then you can have discussions on some of that stuff. So that's one way to do it. Some kids are going to be interested in things like photography or art or writing or something. So a conservation project might actually involve going out and finding beautiful things and taking photographs of them and sharing why this is beautiful and why it's important. So that could be a conservation project as well. A lot of times I think we get wrapped up in the conservation project has to involve a tool or it's not a conservation project. I think we can do conservation projects that don't have any tools at all. So heritage and culture. So if you're in a farming community, farming is a culture that's so important to us and so tied to the land, and it's so under stress right now. So if there are projects that help youth bond and want to be farmers and stuff, those would be great. And that's a conservation project, if you think about it. Heritage kind of stuff. Your family has always been anglers, or whatever. So if the heritage is fishing in your community and people are into fishing and stuff like that, do something about fishing, because that's going to fit right in. So another one, and this one's kind of a stretch, but the book said it was there. But anyway, economics and conservation. But one of the things that could be is that there's something, it might be, that might actually come in if you're talking about a local issue. Should we develop this land? And some people are saying, yes, we need what is going to go in there. And some people are saying, no, we need the land. Well, economics and conservation might say, well, what is the value of that land? Who's it valuable to? You're not necessarily doing, economics in terms of dollars, but in terms of other values. And you can look at it from that point of view. So there's some ideas for conservation projects that I hope are kind of out of the box for a lot of people, and some things. And if you really look at these are all tying back to connection with nature. Nature is part of the community, and we're all tying those things together in the scouting program. So the last thing I put on here was join a citizen science effort. And oh, by the way, next month be here, because we will be talking about a couple of citizen science projects that the Isaac Walton League offers that we can participate in across the country. So, and they also tie into clean water, which kind of fits into scouting for clean waterways in a way. So that's all, it all ties together, and it becomes, it makes sense to the kids. So those are some of the ideas. So with that, once again, I just want to wrap up with better than any argument is to rise at dawn and pick a dew-wet red berries in a cup. And Wendell Berry, a poet. But could you tell he was a poet? But you got that. All right, now I'm going to go through some resources. And what I've done here is, rather than coming up with all these different examples, which would be hypotheticals and stuff, I went through and I grabbed Bigfoot's playbook, because that's something that we use for a lot of inspiration and stuff. And I just picked some of the activities out here and say, how can you build the land ethic into some of these? Well, the first one I looked at, I went, all right, it's the moment you fell in love with nature. And that it's in Bigfoot's playbook, and you can all find it in there. And that activity is really all about the land ethic and talking about what, a place that's important to you. So, excuse me here. Next one I looked at was watch your step. Now, if you remember, that's the one where you take a string and you put it down on the ground, and then you look inside and you see, what all is living in there, and in different areas you see different things living and such, and then you can have discussions of why and stuff. But another question to ask is, why are those plants and animals important inside that circle? Not just why do they grow there and not somewhere else, but why are they important? What role do they fit in that? And so now you can kind of take a step back so it's important for me to respect them, because if I were to damage it, it would have this kind of an impact. So now it's a connection, if you will, as you're building with the land, as you look at that. So it's the questions you ask as you go forward with the different activities, whatever it is. Leaf collage, which is a really cool one, especially for cubs here. You gather some leaves and you do rubbings of them and stuff. And then, of course, as is leave no trace, you will then return the leaves to where you found them. But then we can have a discussion. Why are we helping nature by returning the leaves? Taking time to have that discussion with kids. And then, why is that good for us? If we have, if we return the leaves, and it's good for nature, but why is it good for us? And I don't think that question is way beyond, an older elementary kid at all. I think they'd be able to answer that, and it starts some good thoughts in their head. Next one is role reversal, and this one is a lot of fun. I always think of this one as like skid heaven, where you do a role reversal where, you're playing the role of an animal, and somebody else is a person, and they do something, and what's that involve, and what's the impact, and what's that make you feel like, and that. So, another question to ask might be, okay, if that raccoon or whatever, squirrel or skunk or whatever animal it was, got mad and they left, what impact would that have on this place? And how would that impact the people who love this place? And you start to talk about the web of nature, the web of life as you go through that. Nest challenge. This is one I just found randomly, and honestly, all of the years I've been using Bigfoot's Playbook, I never looked at this one before. But that's, you have the students go out and gather nest building materials and try and build a nest. First go out and look at nests, a squirrel nest or a bird's nest or whatever. Now you go out and build materials and you build that nest. And as you can imagine, I think that's going to be really a tough thing to do, and a challenge. I think that's the whole point of it. And of course, after you're done, you return the materials to where you found them. But some of the questions to ask here is, what materials work best? And how can we make sure that this bird or squirrel or whatever has what they need to make a safe nest? So we can start to think, what are our role? The bird or squirrel is part of our community. How do we help them the way we would help a person or something? So you can start to have that thought process going in their heads. The next resource that I wanted to go through a bit is from the Otto Leopold Foundation. They just came out with this last year. They've gone through a number of iterations. They used to have this program called the Leopold Education Project, which is kind of fallen by the wayside for various reasons. But they've gathered a lot of the good materials from that and put them in a book. So it's on the line of a Bigfoot's Playbook, except the lesson plans are much more detailed than Bigfoot's Playbook is. And once again, I'll give you the link to this later. But it's $10 on their website, and it's a PDF that you then download and print yourself. So here's some ideas from it. And boy, this came out pretty small here. But one of their activities that they've got there, and these are I should also add these are written for, I would say, largely they're for 12 and up is the instructions, but that doesn't mean that they're not useful for younger kids. It just means you're going to use this and be creative off of it. You're not going to necessarily follow the recipe in there. But for this activity, you ideally you would find a natural area with evidence of some animal activity, some tracks or something that had happened there, and some interactions between animals. The way I've done this before is I get that brown paper you can get at your big home store, Lowe's, Home Depot, wherever it is. That brown paper like you put on the floor if you're painting and stuff like that. You put that out and you can go on there and then you can draw and you can have a scene if you would. And then you have the students work in groups to basically be CSI and go in there and read that landscape and figure out what happened from it. And then put together a logical story that fits the sequence. It's a lot of fun. I've gotten to do that in a few classes I've been in, and I've done it with others, and it's always been a lot of fun to do that story. It takes a lot of prep up front. I'll be honest with you on that one. And if you want to find a natural area outside, you're probably going to have to be lucky or a really special place. The next one is what's its worth. So this is similar to what I talked about with the conservation idea. But if you're out, be outdoors, be in a place that everybody appreciates and talk about how great it is, whatever. And then say, hey, somebody wants to put in a grocery store here. Okay, because there's not enough grocery stores or whatever. Or this chain wants to get into this area. Make up a story, and and say if we wanted to stop that, well, what value could you put on this, and who's it valuable to, and so have small groups figure that out. And then come together in a larger group, and you're going to find different ideas, and they're not going to agree. But that's not the point of this. The point is not to come up with one, but the point is to have a connection with the land and understand that just like with the ethics game that we play, in our classes, that we can all have different ideas and still all be right by our ethics. So. I talked about doing photographs. So this is a challenge to go out and say, okay, go out and make an artistic record of observations. Okay, so stop, go out, take time and observe something, and then make an artistic record. So you might have kids going out with phones or digital cameras or whatever, might go out and make a sketch. And once again, here, the idea of the sketch and such is not that we're going to be doing an art contest. But the question actually that's important afterward is, why did you choose that to sketch? What's important about that? Why did you choose that to photograph? What's important about that? And you can ask questions like, okay, would that have been would things have been different if you waited in a different time of year? Would you have chosen what you did? So there's some ideas there. Do you hear what I hear? And so this is something that I think is a kind of a cool idea. It's to make a sound map. So you go out in an area where there's natural sounds all around you. You got a piece of paper, and so if something happens, up front of you, directly in front of you, at the top of the paper, you'll write what it is you heard. Something off to your right, you'd write it on the right. If something off to your left, on your left. If something behind you, you'd write it on the bottom of the paper. You get the idea here. So write down the different sounds, and then after you've heard them, and then you stop, and then you write a one-word reaction to each of those sounds, and then share all this stuff as you go out. But once again, this is a great way to get people to stop and pay attention and listen and be in the moment and be present and all those kinds of things with the land. If tree rings could talk. So if you know a place that's got a tree stump, or you have a tree cookie with some legible rings on it, go through there and just ask questions. And instead of asking, tree questions, maybe just say, how old was this tree when that house was built there 100 years ago or whatever. Ask things like that. And what all has happened since this tree was a sapling here. Anyway, so associate the tree with the place, and you tie the two together as you go through that. Another thing that they've got, and this $10 also, and these actually get mailed to you, but it's the Leopold exploration cards. And you guys don't know it, but for the last couple of years, at the end of each roundtable, I come up with a little thought. Most of those thoughts have come from these cards. So that'll give you an idea of what it is. I'll give you a sample one at the end of this very roundtable. How about that? So they're good. They are not laminated when they come. Everything to do with Scouts becomes laminated. Just rule number one. Paper wrappers that come in are replaced with watertight plastic bags, etc. But there are a lot of great thoughts here, and just quick thoughts and ideas for activities. Also on the web, I found that there was a boy, and I didn't write her name down here. My bad on that. But I believe she was like a fellow working as a ranger at the Valle Caldera in New Mexico. And she ran a series of land ethic workshops. And one was storytelling through objects. So she asked everybody to bring something that made them think of the Valle Caldera that they were, and then they talked about why that was important and stuff. The Leave No Trace side of me says, I don't know if I'm really good about that, but I'd like them to write it on a card or something like that rather than, but having real objects is actually a very powerful thing to do. So, and talk about that, what's important in using objects as a way to start a conversation going about why this place is important to you. And the next workshop she ran was Right Here, Right Now, she called it. And it was an observation scavenger hunt. So she had people just go out to this place, and you sat there and just find things you want and just document it down and take time to see all the things that you can observe, and then get back and share and see who observed what and how many people saw this, but I missed that, and those kinds of things. So once again, it gets you into observation, the whole part of the Leopold process there. And then the third one was mapping a personal geography. And that was just, here's a piece of paper, make a map of a special outdoor place that's important to you and what's around it and stuff. Just make a map of it. And then use those once again as a discussion starter. Why is this important, and why did those places matter to you, and why are they important to preserve? So anyway, I thought there were some good ideas there. Once again, I'll share the links to these things. So just wrapping up with the examples then, I'd like to just this quote. I'd like you to show me, if you can, where the line can be drawn between an organism and its environment. The environment is in you. It's passing through you. You're breathing it in and out. You and every other creature. So, poets are great. Wendell Berry. Okay, so here's some of these. Just to walk through these here, and what I can do is, at the end of the talk, I will copy these into the chat for everybody here. The Aldo Leopold Foundation Learning Hub. So on the Learning Hub, there are a whole bunch of materials that you can download, and they're free. and it's worth looking at. So you can go there and see them. There's also some links to recordings. You can see the Green Fire movie if you've not seen that or you'd like to see it again. So there's things there. The materials, many of the materials they ask you to basically register to get, but they're very good about not. They're not going to share your contact information, and you'll get back to you right quick with the download links for the things you asked for. Oh, there you go. Melissa Fu is the one who wrote the three at the Valley Cardella workshops there. Here's a teaching land stewardship, respecting nature and community. That is agricultural based kind of thing in Texas, and I found that to be a good article. Just last week, I think it was, there was how do you start a troop tradition? And it talked about a whole bunch of things other than what I'm talking about. I'm thinking about how do you make some things like at the end of every camp out, we our chaplain's aide puts together a prayer thanking God for the beauty of where we are, or just some kind of tradition along those lines. How do you maybe start something like that as a tradition in your unit? There's more information on the land ethic, of course, here. That selective attention test video, that's the one the gorilla walks through. So if you want to catch up on that from 15 years ago or whatever, go for it there. And here's the two books I wrote, I talked about from Tristan Gooley. So those are the ideas I put together. And I hope at the end of this that you've kind of got an idea that the land ethic is, we teach it the same way we teach everything else, all the other values and ethics we teach in scouting. And I think most of us are doing it and we don't even realize it a lot of the times. And I also think most of us, and certainly me, we can be doing it better. And we can be more mindful about it and do it better. And I hope, I got some thoughts going for you with some of these examples and some of these thoughts. And we'll all go out there and we'll do a better job of, instilling a land ethic in the youth in this country, because I think our country's future absolutely, our world's future depends on that. So that's the presentation for this. I hope that was valuable for everybody. If somebody's got some comments or questions, this would be a great time to do that before we head into announcements, or we can stay afterwards and chat.
Yep. So Paul, there were just a couple things that came on while you were talking.
Okay.
John Winter shared that he's found that young people really enjoy and find gratification in participating in trail maintenance project,
Yep.
especially when they have a chance to provide that leadership.
Yep.
Gigi shared, in our urban environment, we do street cleanup 3 times a year to help keep the trash and flotsam from washing into the drains and then into the San Francisco Bay and into the ocean.
Yep.
David thought that age ranges for the books would be helpful. And if you're using Bigfoot's playbook, there's actually a table in the back that you can see what age group, what size, the length of time.
Yep.
All of that stuff is actually in there. So if you haven't seen Bigfoot's playbook, it's actually laid out quite well. So you can quickly reference your age group, your size group, your time allotments, and whether you're inside, outside, all of that stuff is all in there. So and then you also have, beyond Bigfoot's playbook, I'll just add, you also, if you're working with older scouts, you've got the teen pack, which has some activities which are geared toward those older scouts, but focus on those same sorts of things. Let's see, what else do we have here? I went ahead and shared, and so did Dave O'Leary. We shared the
You guys are awesome.
Learning
Thank
with the
you.
Land website, and we did the exploration cards. So those two are already in the chat. And then Carol Brown put in, great point of thought and action. The best classroom is the outdoors. Absolutely. So There are any other, Charlene, did you have a question or is your hand still raised from our discussion earlier? You're muted if you're going to say something, Charlene.
It was a really good presentation. This is Pete out of Mobile.
Thanks.
Because part of the problem or I've noticed, if the presentation doesn't have some snap and pizzazz to it, it becomes a clinical view of what the earth is and what we're trying to say. And it just doesn't grasp the attention of kids. So what you said in the beginning when you first started this course was extremely important. And it's very true. You have to tie it back to something they can relate to.
Yes.
I mean, it really makes a difference whether you have a successful presentation or not.
Right. Well, thank you. And I guess it's time to move on to the announcements point here. Bleh. There goes my tongue. I'll find it. So, oh, Michelle, would you like to?
Sure. For those that are interested in learning more about the council outdoor ethics advocate position, we have the team is having a virtual training course workshop January 24th and 31st. We'll be meeting from 9:30 to 2:30 Central both days. It really does take both days, otherwise it would be like information overload in the maximum way here. If you are interested in attending that session, and I know several people have said, hey, I already have a conflict for one, but can I attend at least part of it? Absolutely. We love to give that information, help you build your council outdoor ethics team, even your conservation teams. Resources within a council are helpful. It's really hard for us to make it to everybody. Again, I live in South Dakota, so for me to go even across my state is 400 and some miles. So imagine me having to go to Florida, Puerto Rico, Texas, all over the place. It would be a challenge. So if we can build our council teams, then great for us to be able to get all of this information out. So if that's something of interest to you, please send your name, your Scouting America ID number to me at mbierstead831@gmail.com. And I'm sure somebody will plop that into the chat. And again, we're going to do that on January 24th and January 31st from 9:30 to 2:30 Central. So if you're not in Central Time, yeah, I ask you to do a little bit of math, hours forward or backwards. It's a great time. I can advance. Why attend? Again, it's a volunteer position. It helps get more youth trained. It gets opportunity out there. And it also gives us a chance to get into councils and help them out with awards, with training, with creating committees, with getting people involved and interested. We do say that having a level 2 or a level 1 instructor is nice because then you've had all the other background training, but it's certainly not necessary. Just a great interest in this topic.
Is there a cost?
Nope. Nope, we're just imparting knowledge and having some good time connecting with each other.
Is this something you can have put down on your not resume, but your scouting list of things you've done?
There isn't a training code for it, but we do let councils know who has gone through the workshop training. So if they want to tap into those people, then they know that they've already had the background information and know how reporting and things like that happen. So it's something that we can let your council know that you've completed, but there isn't a training code, so it's not going to show up on your My.Scouting.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Save the date. We have our 2027 Outdoor Ethics and Conservation Conference is going to be going to Seabase February 15th to 21st, 2027. So we're just a little over a year away. We have some costs that are down there. Those may or may not be accurate. We have to kind of finish everything up, but at least it's a ballpark to give you an idea. The main conference will be February 18th to 21st. There are some pre-conference from February 15th to 18th. And we're going to try to get in some training in information or training as part of that. There'll be some pre-conference fun stuff happening. We're excited to go to Seabase. Seabase is excited to have us come. Some highlights would be like touring the hold on, I just had a thought and lost my thought. Would be training the coral reef nursery. So Dr. Abigail Clark, if you remember her from last year, she did a presentation for us on that coral reef nursery. Getting to go in and seeing how they're slicing corals and making new corals and encouraging growth, and all of the research that goes with that is just absolutely amazing. And who would not like to go to Florida in February, especially if you live in the north? It's nice and warm down there. It's cold up here. So keep those dates in mind. And there'll be more information in the coming months as we get everything finalized. Marshall.
So we are really excited to announce a new program at the summit, which will commence this spring on May 31st. It is Conservation at the Summit. And we encourage all of you to tell your youth that there is a new conservation program. And this is building on what John Winters said before. This is a way that people can learn real conservation skills with great teachers, great faculty, for the great price of $350 for the week. And when you think about that, we will have a good day and a half of instruction. We'll probably be doing some invasive species removal, but we will be trail building for approximately 3 days. We're going to have a day of free activity, which includes the big zip line, if people so wish, as well as perhaps boating or rock climbing. It is going to be just terrific. I just see that Dave Schlip just put up something. How does that compare to the OA High Adventure? Well, I'll tell you, this is not just for OA members. So youth as young as 13 years old can go to this. This is a 1-week program. So the second question would be, how does this compare to Rockside at Philmont? Well, that's a 2-week program, and it's for older youth, and it's far more expensive. So we are hoping that we will be teaching youth some great conservation training. They can take leadership from this. They can go back to their units and bring these skills which they will be learning. If any of you have been in the OA and have been to the NOAC, this is going to be somewhat similar to what we have done through the Arrowman Conservation School at NOAC. So the summit took the ball on this. They are excited to present this, and we are excited to be part of this. So tell your youth, this is a great program. And, you know, it is a way, folks, to get to the summit for a whole bunch less money than any other program that they have down there. So if there are questions, please drop me a line in the chat. We will be talking more about this in the future. We will be talking to our COEAs about this in the weeks coming up. So Conservation at the Summit, brand new, great program. Thank you.
Some level 2 courses coming up. If you have not had a chance to take a level 2 course yet, we encourage you to do that. May 16th to 22nd at Summit Bechtel, August 9th to 14th at Northern Tier, September 25th to 30th at Philmont, October 18th to 23rd at Summit, And soon if we'll be getting those 2027 dates out as well. So if that can fit into your schedule, remember that we do have scholarship opportunities available. So partial course scholarships are available for scouters needing financial assistance in order to attend a Scouting America level 2 course. The Dan Howe Scholarship webpage on our website can give you more information. We have several members of the team and even some of the participants this evening that have benefited from those scholarships and have completed their level 2 course and are ready to go hit the field and do some training in their area. So we appreciate everyone who takes a training course to be able to pass on information. And we certainly appreciate the scholarships that are available to help people get there. So if this applies to you, please do not hesitate to apply for those scholarships. I know Dave O'Leary and his team are eager to get some read and passed out. It was important to Dan when he was with us, and we like to see that legacy continue. Paul, do you want to cover this one?
Sure. So each month I'm trying to give you another reason why you want to keep pushing Scouting for Clean Waterways in your councils here. So did you know that there are it's tied to Cub Scout advancement. So there is a activity card for every one of the ranks, champions for nature adventures in all the ranks of Cub Scouting. So you can find out more about Scouting for Clean Water at that link, and you can sign up online to receive updates on the project. I guess I'll get to talk here, and I really appreciate people if you just send me some photos. They don't have to be fancy. I'm not looking for great things. I have an example here of a scout taking some weeblos out on a nature walk, and that's great. That's the kind of thing I'm looking for. It's just wonderful things that we can do to share the good things that we're all doing out in our council. So please send in some pictures. Just send them to that roundtable at scouting-oec.org. And see your pictures on a future roundtable slide.
Hey, Paul, can I
Yeah.
ask Marshall or Michelle or Paula Booth to say something encouraging our council outdoor ethics advocates to participate in our annual survey and thanking those that already have?
Sure, I'll jump in on this, and I'm about to, at least next week, talk to all of the East Division advocates to tell them, please fill out the survey. And that message is going out from Michelle and from Paula. So, yes, Mark, we are on that. And
Great.
if anybody's on this tonight, you don't have to wait till next week. You can do it right now. So we look forward to it. The information is really helpful, folks.
And we have quite a few submitted, and so thank you very much to those who have submitted their surveys.
All right. And just as always, looking for your feedback. And we're not asking specific questions. We just want to know. Let us know what's been helpful to you, what you would like to see in the future. We get emails from folks, and they are so helpful to us as we plan our future programs. So please do take a minute and let us know what's been valuable to you. Let us know if you've got any ideas at all, something you'd like to see in the future.
Summer, if you're talking about the link for the end of year report survey, you should have gotten an email for that if you are listed as the council COEA. I believe Mark sent those out, a couple weeks ago, right, Mark? Or a week ago or so. So if you are missing that, you can email Mark or Marshall or myself and we can take a look.
Last month, I found when I went to try to do the evaluation thing that I couldn't get a 2026.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Lily, I think you're talking the roundtable evaluation.
Um,
Yeah. Paul, you want to talk
Yeah,
about that?
we've discontinued that, and so we're just asking for an email now rather than that
Okay.
form. So I've updated that form just to say, please send us an email. So,
Okay. I missed that.
well, yeah, and so we that's all important to us. If we don't hear from you, we don't know that something's confusing. So we need to fix it all. So thank you. A reminder that recordings are always posted online, and as well as any additional materials. For example, this recording will include all the links that I've mentioned in there. Now, as promised, the card. Okay, this is one of the Leopold exploration cards. The hibernating skunk, curled up in his deep den, uncurls himself and ventures forth to prowl the wet world, dragging his belly in the snow. So here's the action that they have on that. Pretend that you're a skunk ready to den up for the winter. Find places to go for shelter. So obviously you got to be outside to do this one, right? So here you are outside, and maybe it's, where you are, maybe skunk's not the right animal. Pick the right animal and have the kids go out and do that. This is cool. So, and do pick a safe place to do this. But yeah. All right. Well, that is it for today. And next month, Maggie Dombrowski from the Isaac Walton League of America will talk to us about 2 citizen science projects that the Isaac Walton League is sponsored, and they're open to scouts across the country. Salt Watch and Nitrate Watch. So I think it's going to be really interesting and something that we can all be looking at. So I hope to see everybody next month.